So I've had a lot of thought about what I want to say about the Michael Brown trial and the verdict. I've contemplated all day about how I wanted to talk about it. Do I want to do it to people in person? Do I want to make a video? Do I want to make a post? What do I want to do? And I spent all day doing this. Um, Luckily, I do have the privilege to be in a school system setting and speaking to students about how they feel about all of this stuff, as well as, giving them some knowledge of how to come about some of their own opinions through all of this. So I finally decided I am going to do a video. And although I have an idea of kind of what I want to talk about and how I want this to go, when you're in the moment, you don't really know. So I might skip around a lot. I might talk too fast. I might just start rambling. But if you at least get something from this video, that's what I care about. If you at least hear something that I say that you can argue about, great, talk about it. Because that's the one thing that's not happening in our country is people aren't talking about it. People don't like having those uncomfortable, difficult conversations because it's awkward and it's weird. But guess what? Get over it. Because we have to realize there's too much stuff happening right now that needs to be talked about. So whether you agree with me or you don't, that's still a conversation that needs to be had. With that being said, we still need to understand that everyone has their own experience and we cannot judge people for how they think. Because at the end of the day, this wall behind me, you could tell me it's beige, white, tint of green, whatever you want to say. But if I grew up learning that this is blue, you cannot tell me otherwise. Because that is what I've grown up with. That is what I have been instilled to learn and to know. So with that, whatever conversations come off of this video, come off of how you feel, people need to understand that. It's not about how we're conveying our feelings or some of the harsh stuff that we're saying, but more of where is this all coming from? Why am I thinking that way? And why do I think that's okay? So I just kind of want to give those disclaimers and start there. And I guess just kind of have a conversation about some of the stuff that my students have talked about or some stuff that I have brought to my students and seeing their faces and them not knowing. So I work with 8th graders, and I'm going to kind of just keep it at that in a sense of how I work with them. Majority of them are Mexican American. Some are just African American, but majority of the population of the school I work at does not have any white students. So let's start there. We do have the privilege of having a social studies teacher who teaches kids the real history of America and not the white, watered-down version of it, but the real deal. And it's a Zinn. A lot of those Zinn books, Z-I-N-N. I'm not too educated on it, so I'm not going to talk too much on it, but I am going to say that it's real history of what's going on. So kind of with that, a lot of people have mixed reactions. A lot of people are saying, this is dumb. Why are people rioting? Why are people setting stuff on fire? That's dumb. Mike Brown's parents specifically said they want it to be peaceful. But we have to understand where we're looking at, and we need to understand the people we are talking about. One, we know nothing of the people or their lives in Ferguson. So for people to even say, oh, they're being animals, oh, they're doing this and that is not our place to say that. We are not from that community, and we do not know what caused people to do that. Now, are some people doing it just for the fun of it because it gives them a reason to do that? Yes. But there are same people who are hurt and tired of seeing the same countless outcome over and over for years and are tired. So we have to understand that too. We also have to understand our nation was built on violence. Let's think about that. Our nation is built on violence. So people who think Christopher Columbus discovered America, sorry to tell you, no, he didn't. Or for people to think, oh, Christopher Columbus came to America and did all this great stuff. No, he didn't. Christopher Columbus is a person who raped, killed, and murdered people to claim land that wasn't his. Thanksgiving. We celebrate it. We teach about it in school. Charlie Brown Christmas specials. Yay, Thanksgiving. No. We are celebrating people who, again, invaded someone else's space, raped, killed, and murdered people to then have the audacity to sit at their table to then have the audacity, sorry, my computer messed up. So then have the audacity to sit at their tables and say, oh, I'm thankful for this food we have. But meanwhile, you raped, killed, and murdered people to get that food. But you're thankful. Let's think about that again. Going back to some stuff in history. So we went the nonviolent route, you know? Martin Luther King. Let's do peaceful movements. Let's do things that involved our brains and not, you know, guns and violence. Let's be proactive and not reactive, right? A little bit of background history for people who may or may not know. MLK did have a mentor, and MLK did want to use guns, and he had guns to protect his family because of all the, I guess, backlash he was getting for being this leader. And his mentor told him, you can't use these guns. You cannot sit here and preach nonviolence to people, but yet you yourself own guns. No, if you are in this fight, you are in this fight. That means you are risking yourself, you are risking your family, but if you're going to be about it, be about it. That worked for a while. Clearly it hasn't worked all the way. Fast forward a little bit. Malcolm X. He said, nah, bump you, MLK. They wasn't listening to us when we decided to be peaceful. We got to be about it now. We got to have weapons because we don't trust the people that we put in power to keep us safe. And, you know, I don't want to get too far into it, but, you know, that's kind of that history on that. And again, it kind of worked, but in the long run, it kind of didn't. So that leaves us to the present day of why do we have all this happening all over again? And I told my students, history repeats itself. Whether we believe it or not, history repeats itself. And the government has found ways to cover that or to kind of reinvent the wheel so that us Americans don't notice that change. Because we're too stupid to realize it. No, it's the quotation marks. Am I saying we're stupid? They think we're stupid. Because they understand our generation is focused on media, what they hear from other people, not checking sources, not opening a book. And they understand, hey, these generation of kids aren't going to look at history books and notice that what we're doing is reinventing the wheel. Slavery. Oh, slavery's done. Yeah, that ended like 100 years ago. JK, no, it didn't. They figured out ways to reinvent slavery. We have labor slavery. People coming in from other countries having promised to live the land of the free, the home of the brave, and you get to live in my house. All you got to do is work for me, right? No. People who are getting paid 3 cents an hour, 5 cents an hour, 10 cents a day, but still have to pay debts to the people of houses that they're living in, knowing damn well they're not going to be able to pay that off. So you're forever in servitude to someone else. That's slavery. Whips and chains back in the day, physical shackles, physically whipping someone. That's how you stay obedient. That's how you keep people in order. Guess what today's new day whips and chains are? The same pair of sneakers that you wanted to go stand in line for a few days ago. The same pair of sneakers that people are willing to risk their lives for. The same bling bling chains, cars, and everything else under the sun that people are trying to buy. But the government understands you're willing to give us your money for this. You see what I'm saying? So us rioting, us setting things on fire, me even having this conversation may or may not help the situation. Because at the end of the day, yeah, we're helping each other. Yeah, we're being comforted by all the information we're giving to each other, but it does nothing. And you want to know why? Because the only way government will listen is through power. What's power? Organized money. Guess what? Us as people don't have money because we're giving it to them. We're giving them all of that power. And people need to understand us talking isn't going to solve it. Us getting to those polls is what solves it or helps to solve it because there's still a lot of factors involved. But we have to understand it's not blindly going to the polls either. I would rather you sit home and not vote than vote on something that you know nothing about and you're guessing. So being educated on that, finding those sources in your community that can break down what that voting means. Like, what am I voting for exactly? And I'm not talking presidential elections either. I'm talking governor elections, Senate elections, mayor elections, everything on a smaller scale too, is what we need to start focusing on, and that we're not. A couple other things that's just really hard to see is like the students I work with not understanding how much this affects them, and seeing their faces and me telling them, do you understand how many people are waiting for you to fail? 8th grade now. And there's people in 6th grade having these conversations. Do you understand the people getting paid to watch you fail? I don't know how much people watching this understand how the school to prison pipeline works, or how the prison system works in general. But for every percentage of minorities that don't graduate high school is the number of cells that they build. Let's think about that. People are getting paid to see minorities fail because minorities are paying more attention to being criminals or getting input in situations to be criminals as opposed to getting an education, which means our nation is putting more money into sending our kids to prison than to giving them a better education. Whose fault is that? May or may not have an answer. That's kind of up to you. But the one thing I can say, because I don't want to ramble too much, because I really do want y'all to get something from this. The one thing I can say is that there's 2 questions to answer here. 1, who are we allowing to be in power? And 2, if we don't like it, what are we doing to change it? And I want you to really think about it. What are we doing to change it? Not 2-3-day boycotts. Or, oh, Black Friday's coming up, let me not spend nothing. But meanwhile, next week, you're going to go right back to the stores and buy it and be like, damn, I should have got it when it was on sale. No. That's not how things work. Because our generation is so big on, I want instant gratification, I wanted it yesterday, that we are not focusing on what's important. You think people who did bus boycotts sat there for 2-3 days? Some people maybe. But the people who stuck it through, the people who fought for the rights that we may or may not have, do y'all realize that took months, that took years? That's still stuff that we are currently fighting for. It's not going to happen in a few days, guys. We need to be proactive about this. We need to be consistent about it. And that's why people aren't listening. Because they know, give them a few weeks, they'll calm down. They'll rattle down after a while. They're not consistent. But let's do some real stuff where it makes them say, oh, damn. They're kind of not playing. And it may work. It may not. But you will never know unless you try. And I guess there's one last thing, because again, I'm rambling, but it's stuff that needs to be heard. We're teaching our kids about the First Amendment, right? And I want to say kids. Let me say students. Because half of these students I work with that we call kids have been through more stuff in their lives that I have and have to deal through adult stuff more than I do. So let's rephrase that. I do not call my students kids. I call them students because that's what they are, regardless of their age. So we are teaching our students about the First Amendment. There's 5 parts of the First Amendment: freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of press, freedom to assemble, and freedom to petition the government. How many kids you think got all 5 of those correct? Luckily, I will say, majority of them got the 4 of those things, at least 4 correct. But guess which one was the main one they forgot about? The right to petition the government. People think because government has all this power that we don't have a right to say something. It is in our First Amendment. We have the right to petition the government. Now, is there gray lines? Yes. Does the First Amendment and all of the Bill of Rights sound great idealistically? Of course they do. Is that how they work in practice? No. But we have to understand, first and foremost, we have the right to petition the government. So how is it that people that are protesting or having silent marches in Ferguson are getting tear gassed, but yet it is their right to petition the government? little kids walking silently with their parents, getting tear gassed because the government doesn't like what they're doing, or the police don't like what they're doing. There's a lot of stuff that I'm just kind of throwing out there, and I do encourage comments below. I do encourage you to share this video with people because, again, you don't have to agree with me. If this is just something to start a conversation, by all means share it. If you got something to say that you don't agree with, guess what? Boom, right there. Freedom of speech. Go ahead, say it. Because the beginning start is having the conversation and going back to understanding people's experiences. And I have no right to judge you for how you feel. I'm just going to let you know my side and how I feel. So I appreciate those who watched the whole video. If you skipped through it, I hope you still got something from it. People who know me know I don't just post videos, especially me talking. So I hope you do take this seriously. I hope something does come from this post. Because at the end of the day, you can't help everyone, but you can at least help someone. And this can at least be a spark that could lead to something greater. So, that's kind of all I got to say about that.